there, and welcome back to another episode of Discussions of Exploration with your host, Sabrina Ben Salmi. Today I'm joined with a very special guest called James Porritt. Now, James is an absolute trailblazer in many respects, and as he starts to share his golden nuggets, you'll see exactly why. James, I wonder if you can introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers, please.
Yeah, so thanks for inviting me on. Pleasure to be here. So my name's James Porritt, and I'm excited to be on the show and share my story with you guys.
Excellent. So, you said story. Let's start there because some people know you, but some people have never heard of you before. So who is James according to your story?
So it's interesting. So if we look at everything that's happened in our life and where we are now, we're a product of all the choices that we made, all the beliefs that we've had, all the actions that we've taken. So this is where we are. So we can't be upset and grateful because we made the choices, we took the actions, and we designed those beliefs. And I was having a conversation with someone a couple of days, it was a couple of weeks ago. We spoke again yesterday. And something came up in conversation and they said to me, where does that belief come from? And I said, I read it somewhere. And then they said, does that serve you? I thought about it. I was like, actually, no, it doesn't. And they said, well, can you let go of it? And I was like, sure. And I done that in the space of a few moments. And I realized through that conversation, most people go through their whole lives and they're not able to do that because we get attached to beliefs, to values, to conditions, and it becomes our identity. And I've got a level of awareness and consciousness where I can let go of something if it's not serving me. So the reason why I share that story at the beginning is because I'm going to share you an account of an individual that I used to know. I'm not this person anymore. So, and I think it's very important to say that because I'm very conscious of the words that I use. And when I share my story, every time we say something, we give attention to something. And when we give attention and focus to it, we give it power. And that's what we create. So I'm grateful for the person that I was. I'm grateful for all the choices and the actions that I've taken. I'm grateful for where it's brought me, but I'm no longer that person. And I just want to make that clear at the beginning. Does that make sense, Sabrina?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this individual, the real question comes as to, are we a product of our environment? And we could be the most loving, caring, sensitive, humble, hardworking, law-abiding citizen on the planet. But if we hang around with thieves, robbers, drug dealers, eventually we'll turn into them. It doesn't happen straight away, though. There's a process. And the first usual thing is abhorrence. Oh, I hate them. They're evil people, or they're doing things that are wrong. The next stage is indifference. They do it, not me. It's not really an issue. And then the third stage is acceptance. Oh, they've had a bad life. They've got a leg missing. They've had a disability, or they've had some bad things happen. So you accept them. And then the final stage is involvement. So you've got abhorrence, indifference, acceptance, and involvement. So it's very important to understand those. But growing up, I was the eldest of four, parents from Sri Lanka, and I love them to bits. And everything I do right now is for them. And I'm so grateful for everything that they've done for me. But they didn't really have the tools that you and I have today, Sabrina. And because of that, they brought me up and they conditioned me to live in fear. And it wasn't their fault. So I want to make that clear. I've got so much love for them. They had so much love for me, but they instilled in me fear, insecurity, doubt, low self-belief, low self-esteem, and it plagued my whole life. And constantly, like my dad would give me something to do when I was young, and I wasn't doing it quick enough or the way that he wanted. And then he was like, "Oh, you're useless." And they'll take it off and do it himself. So that was instilled into me from a young age, and severe confidence issues growing up. And I went to an all-boys school. I remember in my teens, there was an all-girls school across the road. And if there was a girl walking towards me or a bunch of girls, I'd cross the road.
You don't do that now, do you, James?
No, I'll walk towards them. So it's like a mirror of who I was. So because of all these things, it had a real impact on my life growing up. I've suffered with anxiety, real bad conditioning, poor belief, lack of self-belief, lack of self-esteem. Because of that, and I didn't realize this before, but it was really the identity and belief of the person that I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a few turning points along the way, or incidents, as though we're looking at a story. It's almost like it's someone else's story. I'm so far detached from it now. As working in the property industry about 9 years ago, and I was clinically depressed. I weighed 8 stones, and I wasn't in a good place at all. I remember going into work, and I'd come home. Friends would call me to go out. I wouldn't go out. And on Friday evenings, I'd come back from work. I'd go to my room, and I wouldn't leave my room until Monday morning. Wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep, wouldn't think. I just wasn't in a good place. I was clinically depressed. And I dropped down to 8 stones. I was not good at all. And at my lowest point, my mum and sister had come to the house to come and see me. They put the landing light on, and I didn't want them to see me. I was skinny enough. I went and hid behind the wardrobe. Now, that's not normal behavior for a 2-year-old child, let alone a grown adult. And that happened to me 9 years ago when I was 31. So I was rock bottom, and I've suffered with clinical depression several occasions where it lasted almost as long as 2 years. And you had people that were scared of leaving the house. I didn't leave my room. We'd have family get-togethers. I wouldn't calm down. And I really went into myself. I went into a dark place. And that point where my mum and sister had come and seen me in the room, my mum saw me behind a wardrobe. She pulled me out. She was in tears. And my sister was like, you need to sort your life out, because it was impacting everyone. And I remember I was at work once having a review with my manager. And the next thing I know, the paramedics were there asking my name and date of birth. And I answered them, like, thinking, why they asked me that? And I'd had a seizure. I bit my tongue. Blood was coming, foaming at the mouth. My eyes had rolled up like Exorcist. And I was convulsing. I was unconscious. I was gone for 8 or 9 minutes, which is life-threatening. And I had 3 of those in quick succession. One at work, one in ambulance, one in hospital, and they put me on antileptic drugs straight away. And they thought I'd OD'd on crack cocaine or heroin, but there was nothing in my blood. It was all clear. They put me on antileptic drugs, as I said, and they done the tests over a period of time: CAT scans, MRI, EEG, ECG, psychological tests, blood tests, and they were all clear, which ruled out epilepsy. So the neurologists were confused, and I had to kind of figure out things for myself, because if I'd listened to the neurologists, consultants, and doctors, they were all amazing people, but all they wanted to do was put me on medication, because there was no medical explanation. It was inexplicable. They couldn't understand why these seizures were happening. And if I'd listened to my neurologists, consultants, and doctors, I'd be drugged up to my eyeballs in bed as a zombie right now. So I had to go and find alternative solutions. I had to go against the grain. And it was very, very difficult. I looked at a lot of different things: nutrition, diet, meditation, Tai Chi. With what I'm doing now, we can discuss that later. But ultimately, I had to travel the path less traveled. I had to go against the grain. I had to go against the medical profession, against the pharmaceutical industries, and I had to find things that worked for me, which led me into an amazing space where I'm now. So I'm very grateful for that journey. But it's been a struggle. But like I said, I didn't understand or realize back then what I know now. But what I realized looking back, it was because of poor conditioning, lack of self-belief, lack of self-esteem. And I'm a very unique individual. The way my body's wired up is not like your normal human being. I had ADHD and bipolar, still kind of have it, really. Chemical imbalances, PTSD, I had really severe, and it's been a struggle. But through all of those, what I realized, it was a combination of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual environment as well. So in the beginning, I was driven by predominantly negative drivers, and that's kind of led me to where I am today. So that's half of the story, and I suppose we could continue with the rest, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, James, how did you manage to turn your poison into medicine?
Yeah, because that's really was what it was. It was turning my poison to my medicine, and it was very difficult because there's different elements there. You've got to look at your physical body, what you're putting into the body. You've got to look at the mind, and you've got to look at the emotions as well. And there's that spiritual aspect as well, whether you want to call it religion, meditation, um, Tai Chi, or whatever. But there's different elements. And the first thing was I had to get my mind in the right place. And I've done a lot of work on the mind. I attended seminars, I read loads of books. I was involved in an incredible industry called network marketing, which is very, very um, prominent on personal development. So personal development was huge, but learning to understand myself. But because there was blocks in me, it took me a long, long time. And I've just learned through heartbreak, failures and empty pockets. But I'm so grateful because that's where my greatest lessons had come. So it was seeking out those that could help me. So I'm going to share a very quick story. Now, if you look at an eagle is king of the skies. It can fly the highest. And one day when the eagle was taking off, there was a tiny little bird and can't fly very high. And what it did was it perched on the neck of the eagle, the back of the eagle's neck. And the eagle didn't even notice it was so small. And then what happened was the eagle took off and it went to its highest point. And when it got to that point, it couldn't go any higher because it's too heavy at that height. Now, the little bird doesn't really have that problem because it's so small. But by rights, it couldn't get there on its own merit. But because it was a stowaway on the back of the eagle, it was at this height. It no longer had the weaknesses of the eagle. It detached itself from the eagle and the current took it even higher. And that's really all I've done my whole life. I've stood on the shoulders of giants. And that's very scary when you're doing that because you're playing and working with people that are leagues above you. And if you look at that analogy of that bird, it's got hold on for dear life because the eagle doesn't fly slowly. And when it goes really high, it's scary. And the whole journey I had working with the mentors, the coaches, the people I had in different industries, it was very, very scary, but I held on to them. I had to face my fears. And through that process, I was able to transform my mindset. I've learned to self-coach. I can coach others. I can change my belief system immediately. I've got that level of awareness. Also, with the emotional side, I was able to develop my emotional intelligence, my social awareness with people as well. And I've done a lot of detoxing. I started detoxing several years ago where I've done intermittent fasting. I've cut caffeine, alcohol, sugar, wheat, gluten, dairy, processed food out of my diet. And I'm very excited with the current work that we do with redox biochemistry, which is on a cellular level. And the breakthroughs we're having extraordinary. And that's been a profound impact on my life as well. So there's a whole array of things that I've done. When I work with people, I go into great detail with.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. So captivating actually listening to the transformation and the fact that you were able to do that and just be open, transparent, but also vulnerability comes up for me is that's
Yeah.
not an easy journey to have. And listeners
No.
and viewers, I think it's such a gift that James is able to be so open and transparent to really assist you with your journey, because this isn't for the faint-hearted. It isn't you just switch over and you wake up one day and everything's okay. You know, James has really bared all. He's really been very open and vulnerable about what was his fears, what did he go through, you know, what was going on for him at home, you know, when people he couldn't even come out of his room. So I think, you know, no matter where you are in your life, when you're listening to this, I think there's definitely something to take from this share. And thank you for the story. You know, stories are so powerful because it enables the listener and the viewer to attach it to their life in any way that really resonates with them. So thank you for sharing that. What I'm really intrigued to find out and share with the listeners is, how do you share your knowledge, perspective and wisdom with others? Like, how can people get involved? How can people become a part of your life journey?
So it's a great question. The best way is just to connect with me, reach out. And what I found is, I think my greatest skill is people just kind of find me. I love connecting with people. That's what I realized with anything that I do. At the core of what I do is the people. And there's loads of different businesses that I'm involved with that I've got uh, incredible associations for, that I'm ambassadors for, that I'm very, very grateful for. But what I've realized over the years is the product doesn't move the people move the products. And most businesses, what they do is they use the people to build the business. Whereas what I do is, whatever I do, I ensure that I use the business to build the people up. So what we're doing is actually creating leaders. And typically how people start working with me is we just become friends. We connect on a very deep level. I share my story, and it's crazy now. It's like I've dealt with everything I've needed to deal with. It's taken me the best part of 2 decades, and grace flows through me. I'm a beacon of light and hope, and I'm a powerful magnet, and I'm attracting amazing souls from across the globe. And we're all coming together, we're aligned, and we end up working together and doing amazing things, and I start impacting them more. So looking back on the journey, how people have started working with me is they typically reach out to me. We have conversations, we become friends, and sometimes we start working immediately together. Some people I've only started working together after 12 months, after 2 years, after 3 years, some after 5, 6 or 7 years. So I'm a firm believer that nothing happens before its time. Everything happens at the perfect moment in the perfect way. And I'll share another story as well. It's like we've got a table and we've served our food, and everyone's fighting for the scraps underneath the table. But the plate that's served on the table is for us. It's not meant for anyone else. But what we got to do is, once we deal with our own fears, our own darkness, our own demons, and we get over that, we know our self-worth. And I've realized that everything comes down to really lack of belief, lack of self-worth, lack of self-love, and we just don't feel enough. But when we feel enough and we learn to love ourselves, accept ourselves, we feel that we're worthy, we fall in love with our dream, we fall in love with the work that we do, we just elevate and rise, and we're like, oh, the table was there, the plate was there all the time. So typically just through having conversations with people, and then a lot of people come on as clients, coaching clients, and then once I help them get breakthroughs, there's so many other tools and resources that I can help them based on their needs. But the initial way that people get in contact with me is I just help them through whatever they're going through. No matter where they are at life, I can break through. And I'll share a quick testimony if that's okay.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah, and this really blew me away, and I really need to get this out more. So Carly is a very good friend that I connected with, and Carly used to be a professional counsellor. She trained trainers that train people up on suicide watch. She worked in the courts with people in rehab with forensics. She was a professional speaker, professional writer. She was a singer. She was featured on 2 albums. And she's been through a journey. She's had brain damage, and she came back from the brinks. And then we became friends, and I didn't realize the impact I was making on her life. And then she shared this with me, and we've just become such good friends. And now we're really good friends. We're working together and we're impacting lives together. And that's what really excites me. And she said, James has an ability to meet you where you are and communicate effectively and productively. Whether he's speaking, teaching, or coaching, James demonstrates a seasoned level of knowledge and experience and a passion for what he does. He has an understanding of emotional intelligence and an ability to engage and connect with others authentically. This will no doubt propel him into being an incredible force in his field of expertise. He's a gift that you will unwrap long after you meet him.
Wow, wow.
I know. And when I got that message, I was like, wow, this is what I'm meant to be doing. It's my life purpose. And then another lady who is a friend, and we also become business partners as well. She was going through some really difficult stuff. She's a single mum, went through divorce and works hard. And during lockdown, she's a senior HR business partner at a company. She resolved all their furlough within 3 hours. Very stressful job. Got 2 kids. She's building a business on the side and stressed out to the max. And she reached out to me, and I just started helping her. And she said, you've helped me gain much needed clarity, perspective, and closure on some very deep and personal things that have been troubling my thoughts, feelings, and peace of mind for the last 7 months. This lockdown period brought everything to the surface. You're amazing at how you guided me to some powerful and life-changing realizations within 2 sessions that I've no doubt will save me many years of inner turmoil. I don't know how I can ever thank you enough. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Beautiful. How does it
And
feel to read those?
it makes me feel that this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is my calling. This is my purpose. And when you fall in love with yourself, you fall in love with your dream, you fall in love with the work that you do, and you're living on purpose, in purpose, it's just an amazing feeling. And there was another lady that I connected with, and she's extraordinary. She brought up on a military base, traveled the world, extremely highly skilled, exceptional with photography, images, communication, and marketing. And she was seeing a coach for I think it was 6 to 9 months. They're having conversation. Well, had a lot of conversation in a 6 to 9 month period. And I started speaking to her, and I helped her get breakthrough within 5 minutes. And I don't know what they were doing, the other coach, but I just helped people get breakthroughs.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mm.
You know, James, I think it's so beautiful because one of the processes that we have in our family, we discuss quite a lot, is that we hurt, we heal, and then we can
Mm.
help. And it's a choice. And I think it's absolutely
Yes.
marvelous that you've gone out there and just said, hey, like, I'm here. And it's not a case you've done it at the end when you got to your place. As long as I've known you, you've always been helping people.
Yeah.
During when you're going through stuff, during your healing, you've consistently been there for others. And I think it's such a beautiful gift that you've got to do that. And, you know, sometimes people say, oh, you need to have it finished or sorted out or understood before you help others. I disagree. I think it's so noble and beautiful and wondrous that you are able to do and be so much to so many people despite what we go through ourselves. So, you know, I really take my hat off to you and salute you for the amazing work that you're continuing to do, not only in your life, but in the lives of so many through the works that you do for your own company and the companies of the other associations that you have. And, you know, listeners and viewers, I really hope that you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, because I've certainly gained a lot, and I love your storytelling. I think there's so much power behind that, and just your essence, the essence that you bring. You've just got this lovely presence about you, lovely gift of presence, service, and just being there, meeting people where they're at, like you said. So listeners and viewers, if you desire to get in touch with James, can you let the listeners and viewers know how they can connect with you? Any social media links, like any way they can get in touch with you, please?
Yeah, the best way to connect with me, you can connect with me on Facebook, James Porritt. If you just type in James Porritt, I'm usually the first one. I'm sure who are still trying to find out what they're doing, right? And are coaching people at the same time. So there was, as human beings, we're all trying to be perfect, right? And we're striving for perfection. But what happens is the moment we hit perfection, God takes us back, because the earth, the world is not filled with perfect people. It's filled with imperfect people. And we just learn to accept our imperfections and flaws. And once we do, then we're able to make a difference in the lives of others.
Beautiful. I love that. You know, you've just given me a flashback, actually. One of Lachey's first talks, public talks, was at Transformation House. And she must have been around 11 going on 12.
Wow.
She was speaking alongside Bill. Oh, God, Bill Morrow, is it? Oh, he's really, I know you know this guy, definitely. I can't remember his name. So it was Bill, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, and some other speakers from around the world. It was very interesting. She had this talk put together that she was rehearsing at home. But when she got on stage, she was led by spirit, and she asked the audience, can you finish this sentence? So she said to the audience, practice makes, and then she gave them a couple of minutes to just discuss it with their partners. And, you know, she then asked them, what does it mean? Like, what's the completion of the sentence? And James, I invite you, what would be the most easiest normal thing to say? Practice makes what?
Well, I know what it makes for me. Practice for me makes permanent.
Right? Practice makes permanent. And again, it's no wrong or right answer. And she had such wisdom at that age. And people said practice makes perfect. Why? Because that's what we've often been taught and heard again. And she said practice doesn't make perfect. She said because perfection means that you're completed. She said practice makes improvement because then there's space for continuous improvement throughout your life. And I was just like so taken back, because
Yeah.
exactly in alignment with your story is that we tend to strive for so much perfection. Listeners and viewers, really take heed to what James is really touching on right now, is that, are you just putting too much pressure on yourself to be that perfection? Now, the truth
Mm.
is, the paradox of knowledge is that the more that you know, the more you realize there is to know. So it's one of those things that you never quite get to. We never get it done. That's just the beauty of
No.
this playground that we get to call life, is that it's a continuation of an unfoldment, an organic unfoldment, an organic ecosystem where we just keep expanding, taking thought beyond what thought once was. So yeah, thank you, like, for giving me that flashback, because it was a really beautiful memory that you just
Mm.
triggered me to remember. I wonder, what's a final message that you would like to share with the listeners and viewers, James?
Okay, there's so many, but I think in line with what you just said, I think let's focus on that, because we strive for perfection as human beings, because we're conditioned as a children to do everything perfect, and to we have these big expectations. But if we get rid of the expectations and we just look at life for what it is, a very wise person said to me, and this individual was a billionaire, so they were quite successful and affluent, and had seen a lot. And they said to me, they said, James, there's three stages in life. He said, you're either in a crisis, just getting out of a crisis, or just about to head into another crisis. He said, the only guarantee in life is change, and it's going to be a crisis. There's going to be chaos. He said, so don't hope for perfection. Don't pray for perfection. Don't desire perfection, because it will leave you feeling insecure, vulnerable, and unloved and unworthy. He said, just accept life for what it is, accept your flaws, accept the way the world is. And ultimately, we can't control anything outside of ourselves. We can't control the weather. We can't control what other people think and feel about us, how they behave to us, towards us, how they act towards us. We can't control lockdown, which is what we're going through now. We can't control the government. We can't control finances outside. We can't control anything. There's only two things that we can control: our attitude and our actions, how we feel, think, believe about ourselves. And that's what it all comes down to. So as long as we can accept our imperfections, love our flaws, love ourselves, love our dream, fall in love with the work that we do, then we're coming from a space of love. And then it really doesn't matter what's going on, because we don't need to become better. We don't need to become superior. We don't need to evolve. We just accept things for what we are. And when we can let go of everything and just love, when we don't need anything, and when we can become still, and when we can accept being alone, then the universe just comes from us, because there's no need. And if we need things, then basically what's happening is we're coming from a space of lack and scarcity. And that's what we're sending out to the universe and other people. And that's what is brought back to us. So if we can learn to master the art of just being content and grateful, then whatever we want will naturally find us, because what we seek also seeks us. So in ending that, don't strive for perfection, strive to love yourself perfectly as you are.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. James, thank you for joining me in this space. Thank you for sharing your message. I feel quite zenned out, I can't speak. Yeah, just listeners and viewers, I will be putting information about what James does and how to reach out to him in the description of this audio and the YouTube video. And I really hope that you rewind, pause, take notes, listen to it all over again as much as you need to, just to get all of the golden nuggets that James has so kindly shared. James, thank you. And I wish you continued health, wealth, and happiness in your life journey.
Pleasure. Thank you, Sabrina.